Three, two, one, let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode on the George Habib podcast. We've got a special guest coming up today, especially with the much celebrated day, Valentine's Day, coming up, the day where couples feel amazing and singles are reminded they are single. To this episode, I welcome our dear guest, Stefania Puleo. She is a dating coach, relationship expert, and the founder and CEO of the Gentleman's Square. How are you doing, Stefania?
I'm great, George. How are you?
I am alive and alive.
Alive?
I am in
Was that
Canada
alive
right
and
now. It is
kicking?
extremely cold. There is a blizzard and a lot of
Oh,
snow.
wow. Well, we're in summer here at the moment in Australia, so I can't say that. Sunny, blue skies, and warm weather.
I am extremely jealous of the land down under.
Yes, yes, the land down under.
So, Stefania, I want to ask, given that you're a dating coach, let's start with your background. Like, who is the Stefania we see before us? Where's she at in her life? She lives in Australia, so I assume there's a lot of Vegemite and kangaroos involved, but I'm pretty sure there's more to the story.
Yeah, you've done your research with Vegemite, hey? The
I've eaten
world,
some, yes.
have you? Oh, good,
I
good.
like it.
You like it? Oh,
Yeah.
good. I love it. We grew up with that. Every
Yeah.
Australian,
But what's the
child.
difference between, if I may interrupt, what's the difference between Vegemite and Marmite?
Um, I don't think there's any. I think they just cottoned on and hopped on the bandwagon and created My Might, I think. But it's pretty much the same. I've never really tasted the other one, but yeah, Vegemite is definitely, you have it with peanut butter or cheese, and Vegemite is yum.
It's
Probably sounds
definitely
very gross.
local Australian cuisine.
Yes, Kraft cheese. That's our Aussie
Oh, we got
brand.
that in Canada too.
Do you?
But digressing a little bit here, Stefania, I want to ask, like, where
Cheese
does
and
Stefania come from in life? How did the
okay.
story of Stefania start?
Okay. Well, as you know, I'm a dating relationship coach slash therapist also for men, for high achieving men. And the story goes back a while back with, I guess, pretty much my first profession. I was a hairstylist in a salon, unisex salon. And, I used to get all the hot, juicy gossip from the women, mainly, not men, but women would just really tell us some stories, and a lot of it was, relationship talk. What else happens in a hair salon? Particularly when a lady's in a salon for 2 or 3 hours. So, I heard a lot of relationship talk in that, but it kind of moved on from there because I then became a personal trainer. And in the gym, same sort of thing happened. I was coaching a lot of women and men. However, the women would always say, things like, if only he knew how I felt, if only he understood how I'm feeling, and if only he could just connect with me emotionally. Like he doesn't open up with something we hear all the time, right? And it was really interesting because then on the other hand, with the men, they really wouldn't ask, like, open up and do the whole kumbaya thing. They would more or less ask me, Stefania, what do you think she's thinking? Or what do you think I should do? Or do you think she's seeing someone else? It's all these questions of what a woman would be doing. And I guess what happened there was, like, I thought, you know what? I want to go deeper with this. I want to be coaching. So I went off and did my coaching course and coached women for a while. And again, there was a broad spectrum of stories and, you know, I guess challenges that women went through. But I just felt there was a real gap with men. I mean, I love my dear sisters, and I really feel that there's a lot of help for them. There's a lot of, women helping them find their voice, helping them stand in their power. But I just felt the men were kind of being left behind. And that's when I kind of, you know, jumped the fence and started working with men.
If I could ask, what do you mean by left behind? Like they weren't receiving spotlight in terms of like romance? Like no one was
No,
considering them?
uh, no, I think what I mean by that is, I mean, surely there's a lot of, you know, male coaches out there, or,
Yeah.
both male and females coaching men, but predominantly men, male to male therapy, which I think is great. Okay. I've got nothing against that. However, I do feel that, a man can only give a man's perspective on another female's, um, way she thinks. N- what better person to tell you how a woman thinks or how she feels, whether it's emotionally, hormonally, or in any area like that. So, what I basically do, I'm an advocate. I'm a man's best friend that can give it, deliver the information from a female's perspective. So, but I don't only do that. I'm also a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner. So I combined a lot of tools and help, give the men the tools, equip them to stand in their confidence, to stand in their male energy, and be the better versions of themselves and ready to date, basically.
But how did this start you on the path of being a dating coach? Like, would guys just ask you in general for advice on women as a friend, and then as time went on, it became more and more formal? At what point did it become like a paid profession?
Okay. So really good question, because it did happen with a lot of friends would come to me and ask me. But I think what really was the turning point was a few things. At the time, I was living in Italy and I was teaching English while I was coaching. English was my side gig, teaching English in Italy. And I had a lot of male clients, male students. And I remember specifically there was this one gentleman, he was a lawyer and he was, you know, coming to me for English lessons to improve his English. And he started off dynamically. And then what was happening was his English lessons, he was less motivated. I could tell there was something on his mind. At first, I thought it was me with the way I was delivering my English lessons. And then I just got really honest with him and I said, hey, is there something not quite right? Are you happy with how we're progressing in your lessons? And then he just opened up to me and told me his relationship issues. And at the time he was good in grammar. We did just conversation. So he would come to me for English conversations and a little bit of theory. And I said to him, look, this is what I do. This is my other job. If you want, we can kind of incorporate it. And I did. And it kind of triggered from there. And then from there, I've got to be honest, I had some exes that would come back into my life and ask me about how I could help them with their current girlfriends. Because I, still had them on we were friends, it was very platonic and nothing was there. And I thought, you
Still
know
very
what?
strange.
It all happened like that. And yeah, I just said, you know what, let me give this a try. So I pivoted to helping making men aware. Basically, it's the awareness of letting them know that women, not, we're all different, we're not all the same. And also women are working on themselves. So they're really moving up that, you know, that ladder of self-improvement, self-evolution, transformation. And it's unfortunate that, not all men, but there is a percentage, quite a large percentage of men that aren't working on themselves. They have kind of like stopped in time. And this is why these women are like stepping in their power in such a way that I think it's a little frightening for some men.
Would it be a thing where you could say the balance was off? Like things were in imbalance, like guys were shutting in, but women were becoming more confident and outgoing. And then just because, like, as you said, there are lots of these guys, like, they're not working on themselves. they're not getting further in life. So then, like, why would a woman who's going further in life and working on herself want that?
Exactly, exactly, and it kind of like the gap became bigger and bigger between the 2, sexes, the genders, so what was happening is, they're stepping in their power, the men feel like they're losing power because they're unable to stay in their male energy, because women are stepping more into their male energy. So the men are being pushed to go into their female energy as a result. But the thing is, they're very unconscious of all this happening. You see, that's the funny thing. They're just thinking, oh, women are all the same. They can't be trusted. They're too toxic. They're too this. They're too that. Um, and yes, there is a portion of, but that's like men. There's a portion of men that are toxic and
Oh yeah.
and we're all doing the same thing, but we're all focusing on what we don't want rather than focusing on what it is that we do want. So yeah, going back to, is there an off balance? Yes, there is. There is.
And I just want to ask for some clarification. Do you feel like it's a negative thing when a woman is too much into her masculine? And for me, at least, I think it's a negative thing when a man's too much into his feminine,
Right.
because then it
Now,
throws off like a big dynamic out there. And despite what I see, where people are like, no, no, it's fine. I do see how it really like turns off both sides of the relationship.
yeah, it's really interesting you brought that up, because yes, women are stepping more into their masculine, right? So as a result, men are, or some men are just naturally more in their feminine, right? Which doesn't mean they're gay or anything. They're just, they're gentler and they've got more, female um, energy flow, which is nothing wrong with that. But when a woman is more in her masculine, what happens is she has this energy and this power, but she's not in her feminine at the same time. So you can still be in your strength. So let's call it strength, not just male energy. Strength. You can be feminine and still have strength. Whereas what's going wrong, I think, is women are in their strength and their male energy, and they're missing that female element, that female energy that should be consistent with their strength, rather than getting it all mixed up with their male energy.
Right.
Does that make
And
sense?
these, hmm?
Does that make
Sorry.
sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I completely agree with it because, like I said, when I'm with my female friends, I have a lot of them commenting on how like men are becoming softer. They don't feel like they've got a protector anymore, and like it's not that they want to be completely coddled. My lady friends, it's not that they want to be like completely like taken care of and totally dependent on someone else, because that's called codependence and that's not healthy. But they still want to have like their partner like exhibit like a more masculine energy. But instead,
Exactly.
I feel like even though this is probably a wider topic, I feel like a lot of guys these days, I think it's what you said, they're not going any further. They're kind of just stuck where they are. They're not improving themselves. They're just gaming all the time. They're just eating comfort food, getting stoned, just like complaining online. And male, female, that's really not an attractive trait in anyone.
Right. So let's just break down what is, male energy, that
Mhm.
strong, independent woman is really in that energy of strength that sometimes can be misunderstood as being too masculine, right? She just knows what she wants. She's dynamic, she's a go-getter, she's focused. She's just showing all these attributes that, most leaders have, right? So see the word I said, leader. So a woman like that, she's always leading. So when she's with a man that could be a potential partner, she does enough of that at work. She wants to then be able to sit in a female energy to have the male lead. And that's what's missing. Having a man that is going to lead, that is going to be confident, that is able to, um, you know, interact in conversations that are going somewhere. And you mentioned a few things before. They're laid back, they're eating the wrong foods, they're not looking after their bodies, they may be working, but that's their main interest. It's just those little things that a woman is basically looking for in a man that's is going to be in a stable relationship with her. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess the important, you know more about this than me, but I guess the important key in a relationship, a big part of it is attraction.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to feel like you have another baby to take care of, another dependent. You want to feel like you gotta, like, at least this is me, what I want. Like, I want a partner. I want a teammate. Some days you want to take care of that person. Some days you just want to take it easy. But
Yes.
I can't imagine having a partner, male or female, that you just have to take care of all the time, on
Yeah.
top of your other responsibilities.
Exactly, exactly. And that can be very dangerous. And a lot of people do fall into that, codependent relationship that they mistakenly think it's love, or but it's not love. It's actually quite toxic because it only takes a period of time for it to, you know, evolve or unfold in a way that it's not sustainable. You can't be caring constantly for someone. Yeah, so that's why it's so important that both parties, I think, work on themselves, do the groundwork, do some healing. A lot of times all this comes about because of a certain childhood we've gone through, previous relationships we've gone through, um, the relationships we had with our parents, or the
Mm.
relationship, the relationship they modeled back to us as parents. A lot of that comes into play as to why we are the way we are, and why we do the things we do, our behavioral, you know, habits that we have, the programs that are running in our minds.
Right. And that's like more the profile of the people you see coming in looking for your services. But before we get into that, because I do want to explore that, I want to ask you, and I think we need this clarification because when people think a dating coach these days online, on social media, on YouTube, we're thinking one of two things. We're thinking someone's either going to teach you to be like Romeo, or we're thinking someone's going to teach you to be like a baller, or like someone full of swag. Like, we got one side, and I guess they're called like the manosphere side, where they're like, we're going to teach you how to get laid. We're going to teach you how to, pardon my language, get bitches. Because that's
Yeah.
the language they use, that's the imagery they bring to mind. And
Right.
that, and I've talked about this before, but what they're mainly focusing on is, again, manipulation and exploitation. They preach things called negging, and I don't know if you know what negging is.
No.
It was this big concept a few years back in the dating world where it's like you give a girl something that's a compliment and an insult to like lower her defense, things like this, because they're speaking in terms of
Oh.
like defense and structure and fortification. Someone should have been an engineer, but I guess they became a dating coach. And like the point is to like say something, oh, you got a cute mole, or oh, you'd be cuter if you lost weight, like things like that. And the objective was really to like emotionally exploit a person into sleeping with you, which
Mm,
I think we can both agree is not a great thing in general, not for a relationship and not for the soul.
mm,
But then
mm.
conversely, you had the other side of the dating world, which I call the Romeo side. I don't know what's the official term, but their tactics was, again, it's still emotional manipulation. But whereas the other one was like look for a weak point, this tactic was more about like wearing a girl down into her eventually saying yes to you. So that's like writing love letters, giving compliments every day, always asking about their day. So like
Mm.
love bombing, yeah, like just pushing on her mental walls until like they fall down when she has a vulnerable moment or something. To me, they're both manipulative, one for sex, one for getting a girl. And I want to ask you, like, what's the correct way? What do you, Stefania, teach as the founder of the Gentleman's Square?
Mhm. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say there's no correct way because there's different coaches doing different things, and they have their own purpose, and the people have you know certain needs. So those that do the quick get laid type of coaching, it serves a purpose, and it's obviously for a certain age group, but it's not even an age group. I think it's a certain type of person. So for me, what it's about is I help men find their ideal partner, like the partner that is going to be in their life for a long time. Hopefully, if it's marriage or living together, whatever that looks like for them, their ideal partner. But someone who's like serious, who's probably gone in and out of relationships so many times, possibly divorces, breakups, financial stress because of it. And they are just struggling now because they've had so much trauma in their life. Even some men that haven't been in relationships but are still going through trauma. It's quite varied. Men that are, say, even in their 40s that have never really dated, have not actually had a serious relationship. And they come to that age now where they really want to attract someone that's going to love them for them, not for their financial status, not for what they can provide for that person. So, yeah, it's something serious. It's something that you really want, and you're prepared to do the groundwork on yourself to get ready to actually attract your ideal partner. Because I strongly believe that every man deserves to be loved, even on their worst days. Yeah. And there are women that are out there that are genuinely looking for a partner that, you know, is going to provide that love for them. Now, if these women are doing all this work on themselves, okay, and they're rising up the ladder of self development, and men are not doing that, what's going to happen? They're attracted to these women, but they will struggle to understand them, relate to them, connect with them, a whole lot of things going on. So this is where I come in and really, bring that all together to prepare men to actually be comfortable in their own skin. And, there's even men out there that don't have a problem attracting women. Okay. I have men like that as well. But it's attracting the right woman, the woman that is really going to, you know, fulfill them every which way, mentally, physically, sexually. They've got to bring that into their lives, because it's no good just settling for someone because she's hot and gorgeous and good in bed, but they don't relate, they don't get on. I mean, how long can that be sustained for? So, yeah, I am helping people that are wanting to be in long-term committed relationships.
So you're helping people to change their life and develop like that solid foundation instead of the other guys who are just trying to sell you some tricks you can use on anyone.
Yeah, no, what I do is not tricky at all. No
100%.
tricks about me. It's work, and that's why I say, the people that work with me, they have to feel it, and everything has to come into alignment to say, this is exactly what I want to do. And I like working with people that are committed as well, because I am 100% plus committed in serving and working with my clients. That if I'm not doing that, and if I feel that that client's not putting in, it's because they're not obviously in alignment with what's going on. So they're not ready. They've got to be ready.
Right. And could I ask you, Stefania, these clients that come to you, like the Italian guy you mentioned, the others you mentioned who very late in their lives, they finally want to build a relationship. What do they look like? Like, not their names, but who are these people? If we bumped into them on the street, who would these people be?
Okay. Well, these type of people are, men that are hardworking. That they're that's why I say high achieving. I really like working with high achieving. Now, high achieving doesn't mean rich men. Okay, it's really interesting. I had a conversation about that the other day, where a gentleman said to me, "Oh, you just deal with successful rich men." I said, "I do." I said, "Who said that?" How do you get that? He goes, "High achieving men." I said, "Really? If you have a look at the definition of high achieving, that is a person that is determined, who is focused, who has, goal setting, and is wanting to strive to better themselves, to be the best version of themselves." It says nothing about richness. It says nothing about financial status. So, yes, in the name, high achieving, you know, men that want to take the next step because they know what they've been doing till now has not worked for them. Going to, doing the same thing, going to the same hangout places, whether they're bars or gaming rooms, or, you know, getting them to explore different ways of how to attract the woman that they're actually looking for.
Right. And do they come in all different age groups? Are you noticing a rising trend among younger men?
Yes. Now that's really interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when I first started, I thought my age group of men that I would work with would be 40 plus. That's
Mm.
not necessarily the case. I've actually had as young as like 22, 23. And these are exceptions, but these are young men, and I just love the new millennials, because it's like they've been born with this extra sensory gift, I think, where they're young men, but with old souls. I call them their old souls, where, they've probably done a few rounds of being on planet Earth a few times, and this time they just want to get it right earlier on in their life. They're just, yeah. And these are the type of men that end up predominantly with older women, believe it or not. They're attracted to older women because they have, more in-depth conversations. And so if you can understand, they've got this old soul going on, but you know, they're still young. So their minds are young, and yeah, they're trying to struggle, trying to work through the challenges of dating and having that love of their life.
Well, I am a millennial, so I can kind of speak to that. I have noticed, like, I'm not going to say I have troubles dating because I've been in a few relationships. I do have, like a sexual life, like
Mhm.
that exists. It's a bit on pause at the moment, we could say. Let's say I'm taking a sabbatical unwillingly, but I am seeing it with my generation's guys, because I I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Like, guys are becoming more scared to ask girls out because, back in early 2000s, 90s, 80s, in the movies, where every time, like, you want to take out a girl, you just walk up to her and you ask her out. You go on a date, you see if it works out, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. God bless. But now people, I feel like they're not even like physically interacting with each other. Like, the girl will be right in front of them, they won't say a word, but then, like, when everyone's gone, they'll like text each other or DM each other on social media. That's where they will get their flirt on. Not in real life, not face to face, but on social media, where you're just seeing a bunch of texts and you're over assuming based on some smileys and whatever, and then, hopefully a date happens. I don't know what's happening. I feel like we're getting more averted to social interaction. I feel like, I don't want to say we're becoming pansies, guys of my generation, maybe even younger, but I'm saying, like, there's a lot of opportunity to man up and, like, not be afraid to ask a girl out. Stefani, I want to ask you, what's producing this new generation of guys too afraid to speak to a woman? Like, what's
Wow.
happening in the environment? Like, what's new that our parents and even maybe our older cousins didn't have to deal with more than a decade ago, that seems to be so prevalent today.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is one big major issue that, you know, young people and even the older generation, if you want to call them older or mature, like, say 50 upwards, 45 even upwards. And of course, the digital, era that we're in, technology, the whole concept of texting and messaging, it just seems to be the norm now. They people can be texting each other backwards and forwards for 3 months and not have spoken on even a phone call, a vocal phone call, let alone, you know, we have the ability to talk. We have the ability to also have virtual calls. However, because it's so much easier to text and just correspond without having to face someone, it's a lot easier. So what's happening? The more you do it, the more that amplifies, and the more you're interacting less and less. So you're losing confidence. You start losing self-esteem in yourself. Some are even, not even looking after their bodies as much because they don't have to be out there conversing, interacting face to face. So it then creates another, even mental issue going on in our minds because we can see our bodies change. We can see that we're being more isolated. And then there is someone that we really like and we really want to talk to them. We don't know how because we're losing that natural, innate gift, because it is a gift. It's our own natural talent to be communicating with each other.
Yeah, because like as you said, no one's speaking to each other, and if you don't have, and maybe I'm being a bit too blunt with it, if you don't have the balls to ask a girl out, how do you have the balls to interact with her on a date?
Correct. Now, let me give you an example. This happened to me just
Yeah.
last week, right? It wasn't leading to a date. It was just someone I was interacting with, and he was quite curious to know who I was, and I friended him. So then he asked me why I was friending him, and then he went on to say, there's so many scammers out there, like insinuating this was all texting.
Hmm.
Now, this guy was not in his 20s. This guy was in his mid 40s, even 50s. So I just said to him, I said, like, hey, why don't we just hop on a call? It doesn't have to be a phone number. It can just even be on Messenger because it was through. And he didn't respond. And then we continued texting. I thought, okay, he's not gutsy enough to get on a call.
He doesn't have
So
the
then
balls.
he didn't have the balls. Okay, we're gonna say he just did not have the strength. So he then says to me, "Let's have coffee." And I said, I because I'm pretty straight, that I'm real and raw. I don't sugarcoat. I'm not mean and I'm not rude and I won't put people down, but I'll say it how it is. So I said to him, "How do you expect me to have a coffee with you when you won't even pick up the phone and talk to me?" That's fair, don't you think?
Pretty fair.
And I said, everyone has scammer values, even women, because he was so hung up on women scamming him. And I said, and us women, we have to look after ourselves too. Like, how do I know who you are when you won't even pick up the phone and talk to me? Because, when you speak to someone or when you see them, you're going to pick up an energy, whether it's a spoken energy or an unspoken energy. And women love that. This is where a lot of men fail. They are holding back, and yet that woman, all she wants to do is hear your voice. And that's where they lose out. So then I said to him, that's what I said to him, How do you expect me to have a coffee with you when you, and he immediately sent me his number. Immediately. And I said to him, well, I can't call you now. I said, we've already spent half an hour texting backwards and forwards. I said, we'll chat another time. And that was it. I didn't call him. It had, there was no interest anymore. Like, it was just, he killed it by making me feel like a certain way, I guess he didn't make me feel, because I only make myself feel. However, he just wasn't curious enough, and women are curious. So when a man can just demonstrate curiosity, and particularly about the woman that's in front of him, that's going to get her attention.
because they like the whole trope, dark and mysterious.
Yeah, and the whole thing about, wanting to know. So it's building rapport with that person. And that's what I do. I help men build rapport. And there is a way, there are techniques, strategies to follow to build rapport that are not unique to every woman. I'm going to say that again, that are not unique to every woman. Every woman is different. So you got to know how to handle that woman that is in front of you. That will be different to the woman who was standing in front of you a week ago or a couple of days ago.
Right, but you're not going to learn if you don't even try. If
Exactly.
you don't see them
And
face
that,
to face.
yeah. And, you know, i- that involves a lot of things: building confidence, knowing what to do, how to handle your own energy. Because, I get it. Men will feel overwhelmed. We have the limbic brain and we have our frontal lobe. Now, the limbic brain is the emotional part of our brain, and that's what drives us, our emotions. And the frontal lobe is what I call the executive part of your brain, the logic. And when we are being run by our emotions, we can't make executive decisions, can we?
So is it like that thing where guys, when they become 12, 13, 14, they go through puberty and all of a sudden, like, and I'm pretty sure all us guys had this experience out there. Suddenly, this 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old girl talks to us, and we just go like, uh, uh, like we nothing comes out. We just freeze. Like
Right.
I don't know what part of evolution gave us that response. I don't see the purpose of it in any like survival mode whatsoever. But like, there's just a thing where I feel like we used to be able to grow out of it as we got exposed to more and more women. So socially, like, you start talking with them, you're like, oh, like this isn't that bad, interacting with a female. But I think with like the advancement of social media, people just not like facing each other in real life, a lot of guys just aren't outgrowing that phase where you just
Exactly.
freeze when you see women. Like me, I can talk to girls at the bar and stuff. It took a while. Like I developed that when I was 18, 19. But I still have friends and I don't want to call them nerdy. I don't want to call them dorky. I don't want to call them geeky, but I will call them nerdy, dorky, and geeky. Who, when I go with them to the bar and a girl like sits next to them, they freeze. They don't even, Stefania, it's like a hamster like not wanting to look at the face of a cat. They just
Right.
freeze.
Because they go, that's when the primitive mind kicks in, the fight, flight, freeze part of
Yeah.
us, that we don't know what to do. We go into that freeze mode. And this is not only happening with, okay, it's more very noticeable when you're young, you're teenagers and everything like that, but this is also carried through into adulthood. And some men haven't outgrown it because they haven't been given the tools how to deal with it. They
Right.
haven't been shown, they haven't been um, given the tools, basically. Yeah.
Mm. So that is all that is in our environment keeping us guys down in terms of like seeking a proper relationship. It's really just, from what I understand, the social media and the technology out there kind of like interrupting or blocking off a natural flow where if you're in a next to a person, you feel the vibe. You know, you're in the zone of getting to know each other. So that's externally with your clients, and from what you see, what's happening inside men that's causing them to respectfully fail at getting girls and building relationships? Like, what is happening in terms of like insecurities? And you mentioned trauma. What's going on there?
Okay, so yep, once again, that's another great question. I love your questions, George. Insecurity is one of them. Low self, esteem, not being able to step into their power, because every man has power. Even the geekiest of geeks have their own strength. It's a matter of going in there and drawing it out and using that superpower that every man has. And, you know, it could be even some trauma of something that was said to you when you were at primary school, when you were at, you know, middle school. I don't know. And some big bully may have said something that had just totally crushed you. And that sits not only in our subconscious mind, unbeknown to us, but it can even sit in our cellular memory. And, you know, there's all sorts of things that happened. It could even be, your upbringing. What family environment did you grow up in? Were your parents, loving parents towards each other? Or were they, did you grow up in an environment where you just grew up with mum or just dad? There's a whole lot of things that actually go on that can affect us as adults. But what's happening is when we're being triggered in the moment, it's happening now. So we're only thinking of how we're feeling now in front of that person that we like. We don't know how to access and heal the past because we know what's being triggered in us now. And that's where I come into it and help you, work on that area to then have that, flow of energy, being confident in yourself, healing that trauma, whatever it is. It's like this. I always say it's a bit like splinters. When you get a splinter in your finger, you
Yeah.
ever had a splinter in your finger? And you
Um,
need
I mean, I still have the same splinter since I was 8.
Okay,
I still got a
serious.
piece of lead in me from when my
Oh,
friend stabbed me in the hand when I was 8.
oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I mean, it has
Well,
nothing to do with what you're saying, but I completely
yeah.
understand.
Okay, so, when we can't get to that splinter, what happens is, particularly if it's like a wooden or even hair. I remember I used to get hair splinters as a hairstylist all the
Mm,
time in my nails, and it would get infected. And unless we got it out, it would just keep resurfacing and resurfacing. Even though we would treat the wound, if it wasn't all out, it would just manifest into more infection. So the same thing goes with our emotional wounds, our emotional splinters. They need to come out to clear the way to be in your, flow state of energy in a higher vibration. And that all takes time. It's something that won't happen overnight, but it can certainly happen.
right. And when you're talking about how a lot of these guys have splinters from their childhood, from how they were treated by, I guess, parents, siblings, relatives, or even like being bullied,
Mhm.
are we like, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about someone who was so bullied they never developed a sense of security, so they're always insecure and shy? Are we talking about people who were always in such an overbearing relationships with their mothers, for example? So now that's the kind of girl they seek out and it's not healthy. Are these the kind of cases we're talking about?
Yeah, all of them varied. Now that's a typical one where, they've had an overbearing mother, a controlling mother, a mother that's, always put their sons down, or a father that's put their sons down and not made them, they've made them to feel powerless, even emasculate men at a very young, tender age, that has a very, detrimental effect on our psyche,
Yeah.
on how we're going to behave as adults. And then we've got, some cases, sexual abuse, physical abuse, violently, hitting children, punishing, what's the word, when you ground them, locking them up in their rooms, just you hear of some really horrific stories. Now, in some cases, what happens, particularly if they've had, say, for example, a mother that's been abusive to their son, and he is going to grow up attracting women that are going to abuse him. They say, well, how can that be? Like he just wants to not be around abuse. Well, unbeknown to him, because women are not just going to abuse you straight off the bat. It happens gradually, right? Narcissistic type people that will work on your vulnerabilities, and you're attracted to that because that's what you're familiar to. That feels comfortable. That feels like, oh, my mum used to. So it feels, our subconscious mind will say, well, this feels familiar, this is comfortable, until it gets so bad that we just think, am I going crazy here? What's happening? Why am I continually attracting these type of women? And what happens is, we tend to blame our environment. We tend to blame, it's these women that I'm attracting. Like, they're all like that. They're all gold diggers. They're all, narcissists. They're all bitches. They're all this, they're all that. But
Yeah.
why are we attracting these? You see? Yeah. We go back to energy. They say like attracts like.
Is it why we have phrases like he's dating his mother, he's married to his mother? Not his actual mother, but
No.
basically the person you're with. If people
Yeah,
saw the both of you together and they knew your mom, they'd be like, "Oh, you're just dating your mother basically."
exactly. How many times have you seen that happen?
A
I've
lot.
heaps
So
of
many
times.
times.
Yeah, and the same goes for women as well.
Mhm.
Women dating their fathers, pretty much. It's actually, when you think about it, it's quite sick. It's not good. It's not healthy. So that's because that area of our lives has not been healed. That
Right.
unless you start working on yourself, in some cases, some men were very totally unaware of all this happening until we start working. It's a lot of unfolding, a lot of unpacking to do. Yeah.
It's a lot of unpacking and a lot of work, but I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it because I feel like it's unfortunate that a lot of kids out there can't really choose the foundation of their life, like how they're raised. That's really an external force. But I guess if you want to attract a proper partner, you have to rebuild your foundation, and it starts inwards and then spreads out outwards. Like, you got to be comfortable in your own skin, as you're talking about, as you're helping people get into, before you can start to even think about another person being involved in your life.
Right, right. And that's why we can get caught up in that vicious cycle of, unhealthy relationships, because we keep doing the same thing, but with different people. So we think, oh, we've got someone else in, it's going to be different. This time it's going to be different. She's just amazing. She's so different. She just makes me feel
I can
like
change her. I can fix her.
oh, that's another one. Yeah,
She
we
only
haven't
beat
touched
me
on
one
that.
time, 2 times.
Yes, we haven't touched on that. We've
Mm.
got, the typical, you know, personality type man that wants to save every woman, that, attracting emotionally unavailable women. And they get them to a state of fixing them, so to speak, and then they leave them. The women just, they've been fixed, and it's not your job. I always
Yeah.
say that it's not your job to be fixing. You can't be a lover, a husband, and a partner, a friend, and a caretaker. You can't be um, that type of person. There's skilled people that do that, and it doesn't interfere with your relationships, because some people do have healthy relationships with that person when they're not in that mental state.
Right.
Does
That's
that make
true.
sense? So when she's
Yeah.
going through her thing, and then all of a sudden you have to switch it up and be the therapist for her, that's draining. That kills the relationship.
Yeah. You have to be a certain degree of selfish in a relationship, and like you, isn't it that like that analogy where you put the mask on your face before you put it on others?
Yes, in an aeroplane. And it's not even selfish. I wouldn't call it that. I'd say it's more being discerning, really knowing what do you want out of this relationship that with this ideal woman. Like, you've got to work backwards. I say to people, you work with what it is that you want first, and then we reverse engineer to attract that.
Right. I completely understand with that one. And I just, that one hits closer because, I feel like a lot of people have been in that relationship where you end up with someone and then you realize they have a lot of shortcomings and issues and they're dealing with a lot of problems and you want to be the one to fix it. But all that happens at the end of the day is that either they don't want to get fixed or they like the attention of having problems. You compromise yourself mentally, financially, healthily to take care of that person. At the end of the day, the relationship falls apart and you feel like worse. That was a drowning person and they took you down with them to an extent.
Ex- Exactly. So it's a bit like this, George. This is what I say to people, particularly men, when I'm working with my male clients, is when you go fishing, I say, do you go fishing? And the majority of men like fishing, right? Not all, but I said, when you go fishing and you fish, do you just go out and fish for any fish? The majority of the time, a fisherman who likes to fish will know what fish he goes out for. He's got his boat, he's got his fishing reels, hooks, and bait. He knows exactly what bait, he knows exactly what fish he wants to reel in.
Yeah. And if he gets
So
in the wrong fish, puts it back in.
sorry?
If he
What's
gets the
that?
wrong fish, he tosses it back in.
Exactly. It's too small, it's too this, it's too that, it's one of not the and but when he knows he's going out for, let's say, marlin, that's the big fish they go out for here in Australia, they're well equipped. They are ready to catch that marlin. And he will do and prepare himself in every which way to catch that marlin. But he knows what he wants, and he'll come home with a marlin. Now, take it back to relationships, right? Now, if you're just going to go out there and you don't know what you want, what are you going to reel in?
Jellyfish, an old boot,
I love it. Yeah. Jellyfish, weed, seaweed.
an old boot.
Right, right.
So I'm guessing that's where you come in, Stefania. You provide the tools and you make sure they know what kind of fish they need to catch.
Exactly. Because they
So
I get because they know what fish they want. It's just they get derailed because, women have that tendency of derailing men. Let's face it.
oof. They know where the weakness is.
Right, right. So, and now I'm not saying that you can't be derailed a little
Mm,
bit. Absolutely not. Get derailed, have that derailing fun, whatever you want to call it, but know what it is that you want. Don't spend too much time in that zone, because then
right.
it that's where the the challenges come in because emotions set in and we start feeling comfortable with that person, but they're not what we want. They don't have the
Yeah.
values we want. They don't have the, whatever it is that we're actually looking for.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, Stefania, what are we looking for? Because you mentioned the ideal woman. What is the picture me? Well, don't even picture me. You're looking at me. You see me, almost 30. I want to start a family. I want to have a partner. I'm looking to buy a house. I want to build the rest of my life with Mrs. Right, the future Mrs. Habib.
Mhm.
what what is the girl I should be looking for out there? Who's not the dream girl? Because the dream girl, she's a model, she's a 11 out of 10. She's amazing in bed, she's perfect, she cooks, she cleans, she does everything. She's not even a human at that point. She might as well be a robot. But what
Uh-huh.
is the ideal person? Like, what is the healthy objective for a man like me?
Okay. Now that's a really, again, you're asking me really good questions, but this time I'm going to bring it back on you, George, because what's ideal for you might be ideal for someone else. So this is where I, you know, sit down with, a client. I sit down with a male person that is wanting to attract that ideal woman and find out what is ideal for you. Now, some men, you'd be surprised if I get $1 for every man that says, "Well, I don't know. I don't know what it is I want. I don't know." I'd be a rich woman, honestly, with $1. We start working out what it is that you ideally would feel comfortable with or you think is ideal for you. And we started unpacking that. We start exploring that. And then from there, we say, okay, this is what you want. This is what's going to make you happy. This is what's going to make you feel good. This is you can see this in 5 years, 10 years down the road. Well, yeah, that's all going to come together. So, yeah, I can't, all I can say is from what I hear from my male clients, I'll tell you, men want respect. And I think that would probably be one of your high priority
100%.
lists, right? They want to be respected. They want to be loved, genuinely loved. They want honesty. And they want someone who's real. Someone who's real, quote unquote, without all the drama. We hear it all the time. Men go, she's such a drama queen. She just there's always got to be drama. Like anything I say, there's drama. Compatibility. And of course, chemistry.
Yeah.
That's what draws you to that person. So the fundamentals, I would say, would be those. But then when we go deeper, when I work with my clients, we really go deep to be attracting that ideal woman or partner.
You're changing lives, saving lives.
Yeah, in more ways than none. I just love what I do, and I love seeing the transformation in men. Yeah, and I have a lot of female women that reach out to me, and say, you need to be speaking to my partner here, or you need to be speaking to a friend of mine that would really benefit, and because they can see it. They can see it. And I know from experience with some of the relationships I had, because I've had some beautiful relationships, and some of them, I'm still friends with, and just didn't end well because I thought if there was only someone out there doing what I'm doing now, a female version, like me, not just males, but women, empowering men, empowering them and equipping them to navigate the dating scene and to navigate through, you know, female energy.
But yeah, Stefania, I really like what you're saying. Like, it really appeals to me and where I'm at in my life. And even though I do feel like compared to others, I'm relatively more of an easier case than them. I feel like there are other guys I know who are so deep in their isolation, so deep in their insecurities. And what makes me afraid, and which is, I feel like you're kind of saving lives out there, not in the way that, these people could have died physically, but like, I guess, in terms of like having enjoy, like they could have died in terms of like, I don't know what you want to call it, spiritually, emotionally. You're saving people from that because I've seen the worst case scenario. And of course, you've dealt with the worst case scenarios. And these are the people in their 50s, their 60s. They've never had really a meaningful relationship. They're all alone. Maybe they're looking back in their life and they're thinking, what the hell have I done with my life? So when you work on people my age who are dealing with these problems, that's a person who doesn't have to wait till like they're much older to realize, oh my God, I could have had this years ago with the right mentorship, guidance, and tools. And I do feel,
Absolutely.
and that's why I'm so happy to have you here, Stefania. Like, you are a very relevant guest for my audience. And I mean that. I really mean that
Oh,
because
thank
I
you.
feel like there's lots of people in similar situations where they're just in the apartment all day, they're not leaving. Their bodies are just so unhealthy, whether that's just cigarettes or junk food or even just bad like obsession with pornography and things like this. So they couldn't be sexually active even if they wanted to. And it's scary to me. Stefania, it's scary to me to think that that's not a temporary phase for some people and that it's
No,
potentially increasing, that more and more people, more guys are going to be dealing with this, like, and not realizing they could have just had a happier and fulfilling life if they got out there more and took risks and got out of their comfort zones.
absolutely. And there's something you said before, and you said they are dying spiritually, which is a worse death because it's like you're dying in your own body and you're still living. Have you heard that phrase where they say that you could be 90 but you died at 40?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there like that. They're just slowly just dying and they're just existing. They're not living anymore. So yeah, it's sad, and no one should have to be going through that. No one should be experiencing that kind of pain because it's very painful. And the isolation, the loneliness. No one wants to be alone for the rest of their lives. We're not made to be alone. And we have to be aware that social media, the digital world, all this new world stuff is forcing us to be in that to go into that direction of separation, isolation, keeping us distant from one another. So all I say is don't be in the norm of doing what everybody else does. Be different, be bold in your life, and be bold in your relationships.
I completely agree. Stefania, I want to thank you for coming on. I know that this is a very all encompassing and broad topic that can't really be simplified in just one episode. I would
Mm,
frankly love to have you on for more like specific topics in this field for future
absolutely.
episodes if you'll have me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. This has been great.
Yeah, I find you to be. I have had dating coaches on this before. I have broached the topic of dating with other guests. With you, for me, the number one word that comes out is empathy. Because as you said, you've
Mm,
been listening to men. You get them. You understand them. You're not teaching tricks. You're trying to build up their lives from within.
yeah, amen to that. That's so true. It's I wouldn't know how to do a trick myself. So yeah, it's about being, staying in your authenticity, and it's that's where our power is. That's where our power is. being real.
Yeah, I feel like just as the world becomes more and more artificial and fake, we're being cut off from that power.
Only if we allow it. Only if we allow it. And we're being made aware. I think that's what's going to save us. Being aware and then, acting upon it, not just sitting.
True. True. Stefania, we have come to the end of the episode. We're gonna have to pick this up again in the future, as I said,
Mhm,
because there's
mhm.
just so much I want to pick your brain about. Where can people find you?
Okay,
Where can
so
people get your professional help?
all right. So I'm sure you'll probably put my links up, but the Gentleman Square is the platform that I work from. So you can get that on the website. And I'll also put all my social links up with, Instagram, YouTube. I also have a digital business card, which is Linktree, and that'll, give you access to my free downloadable books. I've got one guide that I'd like to offer. It's a free guide, and the free guide is the attraction. I guess it's a bit like an attraction toolkit. It's how to attract your ideal partner. It's only a guide, but it's got some really good, valid information in there, and it is a guide to helping you attract your ideal partner without all the pitfalls. Okay, so get yourself a copy, anyone who's listening to this, and if you want to take it further, you're most welcome to booking a complimentary, what I call insight call, a free chat with Stefania, ask me questions. It's not a sales call, it's just simply a call that you have another pair of ears to listen to you. So yeah, but get yourself the guide. I'm sure George will put that link up.
Oh, for sure. So, guys, thanks, Stefania, for coming on here, sharing us her amazing words. As I've said, all Stefania's links are going to be down below. So please, guys, subscribe to her YouTube channel, follow her page, follow her on Instagram, and check out her guide as well as her website. There's
Awesome.
definitely 100% a bunch of value in that. And guys, if you haven't already, please like this episode, subscribe to the channel, share our social media, because the more we get shared, the more amazing guests come in with Exhibit Stefania.
Thank you, George. It's been great. Loved it. Totally loved it.
For sure. Take care, everybody, and have an amazing day.